the closing arguments in the case against Carmelo Anthony, a young kid who was portrayed as a monster and a man. A young kid has now been sentenced to 35 years in prison. But here's what blows my mind, Sharon, and that is that I thought about the fact that a decade ago, George Zimmerman decided that he was going to hunt down Trayvon Martin. And George Zimmerman, watch this, is walking the streets of this nation now. He's free. He killed Trayvon Martin, but his defense was stand your ground. That he can stand his ground and kill Trayvon Martin, though he hunted him down. And yet, and Carmelo Anthony, a young kid being bullied, a young kid who has seizures, a young kid can decide that he's going to defend himself, and now he's getting a 35-year prison sentence. Y'all not getting this thing. How does George Zimmerman get to stand his ground, but Carmelo Anthony can't defend himself against bullies that have been bullying him? I'm letting you know war has been declared on us. There's a defunding of Black America. The judicial system, in a real sense, has betrayed us. No wonder Lauren Hill looked at our plight and rapped about our reality and declared Black rage is founded on blatant denial, squeezed economics, subsistence survival, deafening silence, and social control. Black rage is founded on wounds on the soul. Y'all didn't feel Lauren. Well, let me give you Grandmaster Flash and the Fury Five. They would look at now and say it's like the jungle. Sometimes it makes you wonder how I keep from going under. It's like the jungle. Sometimes it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. And then Grandmaster said, don't push me because I'm close to the. And y'all got that. And then he says, I'm trying not to lose my head. Y'all, war has been declared on us. If we're not careful, we'll develop wounds on the soul to quote Lauren Hill and then lose our head. But y'all's theme excites me because it reminds me of another builder by the name of Nehemiah. Nehemiah, in his book that bears his name, gets word that his community has been devastated, economically crippled. He's balling in shock, falling as a cupbearer in Persia. He's in the king's palace. He's got a position like Tupac Shakur. He's a rose that grew from concrete. The brother is falling and shot falling. But when he gets word that his people are struggling, Nehemiah says it's not enough for me to be blessed, because when you've been blessed to overcome, you've got to turn around and help the rest to come on over. Preach, Freddie Haynes. I'm about to do that. What happened? Nehemiah, the Bible lets us know, gets permission to go back to Jerusalem and begins to build, only to discover that where he's trying to build has become a battlefield. Because whenever you are about something, those who ain't about nothing want to attack your something. I think I'm about to get y'all right here, because I've been trying to figure out, why do these folks hate us so? Why is it that they love our culture, but they can't stand us? You know they love our culture, because if they didn't have our culture in this country, there'd be no flavor whatsoever. But everything we do, we bring our flavor to it. And when we bring our flavor to it, all of a sudden they take over what we started and like they started it. I'm just letting you know they don't like us, but they love our flavor. And no, it dawned on me that they keep coming for us because evidently we got something that they really recognize, respect, and in a real sense want themselves. Reverend Jesse Jackson helps me here, because Reverend Jackson was in conversation with Rodney Ellis. Ellis tells me this story. Rodney told me that Reverend Jackson was was talking to him, and Rodney was complaining about the attacks he was receiving. And Reverend Jackson said, "Oh, that's a good thing, because in football, the only person they're trying to stop and tackle is the one who's got the ball. Evidently, you've got the ball. That's why they're trying to block and tackle you, black folks. I got a word for you. You want to know why war has been declared on us and why they're trying to stop us and tackle us? Evidently, we got the ball. And since we got the ball, we got to know what to do with the ball. What does Nehemiah do? Nehemiah, I love it. He visualizes possibilities, organizes the people, and before you know it, they are building. They're building in chapter 2, organizing in chapter 3. Chapter 4, the book lets us know the wall is halfway completed, and that's when the enemies come for Nehemiah. I love it because the text says when the enemies came for Nehemiah, look what Nehemiah did. He organized them where there were some on the wall who had weapons, who were ready to fight. There were others on the wall who had construction material. So they were so organized that you had fighters over here and facilitators over here. You had construction over here and combat over here. And then you had those carrying the material, and they had weapons to fight on the one hand and construction to build on the other hand. And y'all, that dawned on me. That's the metaphor for what we gonna have to do in this day. If your theme is going to come to pass, we gonna have to know how to fight and facilitate. We have to know how to construct and combat. We're gonna have to know how to build and battle, because we're going to build a better future. But the only way to do it is to have faith, favor, and build a foundation. I'm talking, y'all just missing your shout. Let me see if I can break this down. I'm gonna go with your thing. Your thing says first we need some faith. I love this. That is forward believing in the best in the face of the worst. That's good right there, because y'all, we're in some tough times right now, but I have that Sankofa spirit, Sankofa from the Akan people over in Ghana, where there is a symbol of a bird that is moving forward by looking backward with an egg in its beak. Craig Carr of Howard University talks about the momentum that we get from memory, that when we look back, we have the fuel to move forward. Y'all missed the shout right there. Y'all, this ain't our first rodeo. This ain't the first time we've had a photo in the White House. This ain't the first time we've been attacked by this nation. We ain't new to this. We true to this. And because of what our ancestors handled back then, I know we've got the faith and the power to handle the hardship that's happening right now. You see, we often forget the wisdom of one Charles G. Adams, who put it like this. That late great pastor from Detroit, Michigan, Adams, said, I'm going to remix him right quick. They gave us slavery and we produced the spirituals. They gave us the blues and we put rhythm in front of it. And now we got rhythm and blues. They gave us hell and we produced the Harlem Renaissance and hip hop. They gave us hardship and we produced Howard. They gave us misery and we built Morehouse. They gave us suffering and we produced Spelman. They put us in pain, but we produced Paul Quinn College. They gave us mess, and somehow we made something good out of it, because we are a creative people. We are an ingenious people. We are the same people who didn't just build Black Wall Street in Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma. We built communities all over this country, communities that were economically self-sustaining. I'm letting you know that when you look back, now you can look forward and recognize in the face of the worst, we still believe God for the best. And when we believe God for the best, we recognize the wisdom of one Mary McLeod Bethune. Can I shout you right quick? Bethune goes to Florida, Daytona Beach, and there is a trash heap, a junkyard, if you please. And she sees it and she tells, watch this, Walt Disney and another person, I believe it was Ford. I see a college right here, and the college will have this, and the college will have that, and that's going to be the dormitory for girls, and that's going to be this. And y'all, they're looking at her like she's crazy because all they see is trash, but she saw the treasure of an institution that is now Bethune-Cookman College, y'all. She went there with $1.75 and a potbelly stove, and now we've got a black institution in Daytona Beach, Florida, because she had the faith in the face of the worst to believe God for the best. And that's all I'm trying to say. I know it's hard right now. I know it's difficult right now, but we ought to have faith in the best. Yes. In the face of the worst. I got to keep it moving. I'm holding y'all too long. It's good to me. But not only is there faith, but your subject says favor. Yeah. I love that because God is so good that in the face of disfavor, God will grant you favor. God. This is a time where we are disfavored as a people. And I think about the fact that you have the gospel gall and anointed audacity to talk about building generational wealth now. Yes. Are you serious? Yes. In real estate. And you already know what 44% was said earlier of our people own their own homes. But wait, it gets worse. I read a stat this morning that blew my mind. It talked about the fact that white folk who have watched this, who make $30,000 or $40,000 a year have an easier time of getting a loan for a home than a black person who's making over $150,000 a year. And y'all, in this disfavorable economy where the system is against us, have the nerve to believe that somehow we're going to build generational wealth. I guess y'all believe in favor. Because when you have divine favor, nobody's disfavor can stop what God has for you. When you have divine favor, you recognize that God has a way of opening doors you didn't even knock on. God has a way of blessing you with blessings that nobody can block. I ain't coming through. I need you. I need somebody else to holler at me from eternity. Come here, Harriet Tubman. I talked to Mary McLeod Bethune. I'm going to bring my girl Harriet now. Harriet was one cold sister. Harriet was so cold. I'm about to shout you that y'all know that Harriet, she suffered from these periods of blackouts where she would pass out unexpectedly, inexplicably. She would pass out. Why? Because Harriet, as a teenager, got hit by an iron object because she got between an overseer and a runaway who was trying to get away from slavery. It hit her in the head. 2-pound iron knocked her out. The rest of her life, she would pass out. But y'all check this. When she passed out, that's when God gave her visions. When she passed out, that's when God gave her direction. When she passed out, and y'all, she would pass out sometimes leading fugitives into freedom. Imagine that. She is passing out while trying to lead fugitives to freedom. I had to talk to the girl. I said, Harriet, yo, you never got caught. You never lost a passenger. How did you do that? She said, oh, Freddie, that's simple. When I would pass out, I discovered something. As long as I was conscious, if I was working for God, when I was unconscious, God would work for me. I said, talk, Harriet. And y'all, Harriet escaped to freedom up north. And when she got to freedom up north, check out what happened. She wasn't content just to be free herself. She wasn't content just to have it going on herself. She had that spirit of Ubuntu, which says, I am because we are, and because we are, therefore I am. Ubuntu, that says, I think communally and not just individually. Ubuntu, which means I'm not a captive of capitalism, which is all about what I can make, what I can get, what I can get for myself, because I recognize that I can't be all I'm supposed to be unless all of us are what we are supposed to be. God delivered me from Negroes who think that they've got to get it for themselves and then forget about where they came from. Deliver us from the spirit of Uncle Clarence Thomas, who has amnesia about how got where he is and now has nothing to do with the very people that helped make him who he is and opened up the door for where he is. Yeah, I'm going there. I'm simply trying to say that we've got to have that spirit of Ubuntu. That spirit says if we gonna make it, it's because we look out for the other. Harriet had that spirit, and y'all, she went back down south and made numerous trips. And check this, scholars are now debating how many times she went back. Some said 19, some say 13. I don't care how many times she went back. She went back. And that's what we got to do. We've got to have the faith to go back. Wait, one case, I read this. My mind, Harriet Tubman goes back, but before she went back, she had gotten word, don't miss this, that her parents were about to be sold further south into slavery. And Harriet hears from God while she's passed out, and God says it's going to take $20 to get to make the trip and get your parents back to freedom. And then God told her that one of the abolitionists in town, and I can't think of his name, has the $20. Harriet wakes up, goes to his office, and she greets her lovingly. He's honored that Harriet came to him. And Harriet says, yes, I've got to go back down south to get my parents. And God told me that it's going to cost $20 for the trip. And so God told me to come to you because you have the money I need for my trip. He says, Harriet, God ain't told me that, and I don't have $20. And Harriet said, well, I'm staying here because God told me that the $20 is here. Here comes favor. He says, but Harriet, I don't have it. And she says, well, I'm staying right here. I'm going to be here tomorrow. When you come to work, I'm going to be here because God says the $20 is here. He leaves. He is flustered and frustrated. Harriet is asleep on his floor. When he closes the door to his office, he goes to the local pub because he is so messed up that Moses, the woman called Moses, came to him for money he doesn't have. On top of that, God sent her, and he knows he does not have it. He gets to the pub, starts drinking and talking. And as he's drinking and talking, he finally says, y'all, Moses is in my office. They said, Harriet's in your office. What is she doing there? She came there because God told her there was $20 in my office to go get her parents back down south in slavery. I don't have $20. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they took up an offering in the pub. They then took the offering to the office. They get to the office. She's on the floor asleep. And they leave the offering at her head. She wakes up and she's surrounded by $60. Watch this. Now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all you can ask or imagine. Harriet Tubman had what she needed because in the face of disfavor, God gave her favor, and the favor, watch this, helped her to help her parents. I gotta quit. I've held y'all too long. The last one, y'all talk about faith, favor, but then you talk about foundation. foundations, and it's faith, favor, and foundations that help us to build generational wealth with purpose. I like foundation because y'all are real estate brokers, and you know you can't have a solid home unless you have a good foundation. If you got a whack foundation, you're going to have some issues with that home. And so here is where what y'all do is so important, because you're laying a foundation of general wealth, because all of us recognize the power of home ownership in building generational wealth. And if we have home ownership and begin to partner with various institutions in our community, imagine if TAREB hooks up with national churches. Imagine if TAREB